n'ennyingiza mu bizinesi yo awo URA esobola okukola omulimu gwayo ogw'emisolo obulungi.
Nedda mwami Musoke kyesitegeera IFRIS eyingira etya mu bizinesi yange?
Kakati enkola ne IFRIS eyingiza bizinesi yo mu sisitemu ya URA kubanga tekyali kya buntu bulamu okugerekera omusolo ogutali mutuufu abateebereza buteebereza.
Ekyo kituufu ddala bannange, ekyo kituufu kubanga mazima obadde omusolo gubadde gwapaala bupaazi ng'ogenda n'osasula omusolo gw'otomanyiiko omutwe n'amagulu kwegamba bambi nga tekiriiyo.
Olaba kakati ate n'ekirala IFRIS eyamba okukuuma ebiwandiiko bya bizinesi yo kuba biyinza okubulako, biyinza okukwata omuliro, naye kati wano IFRIS biba biri digitalized.
Bannange nenkola ntya okwewandiisa?
Kyangu nnyo waludde dda. Okwewandiisa mu nkola ya IFRIS genda ku kibanja kya URA www.ura.go.ug awo olondeko e-invoicing awo nno ogoberere endagiriro. URA tukulaakulanyize wamu Uganda.
Hello, landlady.
Hello.
I'm from URA. I'm here to remind you to register, file, and pay your rental income tax.
I'm on top of it. I've already registered, filed, and paid my rental income tax.
Oh, wow. So rental income is the amount of money derived by a person for the year of income from letting land or buildings.
Oh, I see. Okay, let me get started.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, Mama, you as an individual who earns more than 2,820,000 shillings a year as your rental income from this place, you will only be taxed 12%. A company like yours that earns rental income is allowed up to 50% in terms of expenses for the particular year of income. And the balance is taxed at a rate of 30%.
Wow, that sounds reasonable and fair.
Oh yeah, it's all about property prosperity and making well-informed financial decisions.
Wow, let's get started then.
Okay.
We call upon all landlords and landladies to register, file correct returns, and pay in time to avoid penalties that may come with failure to do so. Visit the URA website www.ura.go.ug or call the toll-free line to get started.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Yangu eno naawe olowooza ababbi b'oku street be banzibye saabo kankubulire natikka ebintu byange okuva China ne baŋŋamba neetaaga tiini namba nze nga sigirina neetuma omuntu omulala abindeetere kati ngenze mu URA baŋŋambye ebintu byange nga sinna bannange ebintu bikolera ddala bannange obugayaavu kibi omanyi nti obugayaavu bukuzza muki bannange weebale Dangote bannange omponyeza omanyi ebintu byange bingi byowonyeza okubbibwa nzizeyo mu URA mbalage nti nkirina.
Okubeera ne tini namba kikuyamba mu bintu bingi nnyo okugeza mu kusuubula n'okusuubuza eby'emuguzi mu Uganda ne wabweru wa Uganda, okuddizibwa ensimbi okuva ku misolo gy'ozosasula, okufuna looni mu banka ez'enjawulo, okufuna layisinsi okuva mu government agencies zonna, okuwandiisa emmotoka yo n'okugula oba okutunda ettaka.
URA tukulaakulanyize wamu Uganda.
Good morning and welcome to this episode of the Live Tax Lounge that's showing on URA TV, i.e. on all the different platforms that where we have URA, that's Zoom, X or Twitter, Facebook, YouTube and LinkedIn. My name is Josephine Kabiesiza and we're hosting the different entities that we had the last time we were talking about, the Greenguard Campaign, that's in March. Maybe the other thing I wanted to note is that Earth Day was on Monday, and that's a day that demonstrates support for the environment or for environmental protection, and that's every year on 22nd April. So this is actually a timely moment for us to engage in these discussions about the environment. So without further ado, let me allow our different guests to introduce themselves, and I'll start with the lady.
Thank you so much, my dear. Good morning, and good morning, our viewers and listeners out there. I'm called Leila Akelo Gonesa. I work with NEMA as a senior manager in charge of the Department of Environmental Compliance. Thank you. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you.
Thank you, Josephine, and good morning to our viewers. My name is Tony Achidria. I work at NEMA as Senior Environment Awareness Officer. I'm glad to be here.
Nice to have you.
Good morning and thanks for this opportunity. And good morning, viewers out there. My name is Najeton. I lead programs at Climate Hub International.
Nice to have you. So, like I mentioned, this is a specific show for the Greenguard Campaign, and the Greenguard Campaign is something that URA is championing that started this financial year in support of the environment. We work with the different entities, as you're seeing us, with Climate Hub International and NEMA. We've also worked with others before in different activities and different engagements, but all aimed at promoting the environment. So this discussion today, we're going to talk about global warming and humans, as well as environment, social impact assessments. But before we get into that, let's allow the different entities to talk about the entities themselves. You can tell us about NEMA. What does NEMA really do?
Yeah. Thank you, Josephine. And once again, NEMA is an acronym for National Environment Management Authority. We are an authority of government, the principal agency mandated by law to perform 4 main functions. That is to supervise, monitor, coordinate, and regulate all activities of environment. NEMA gets its powers, if I could call it that, our right to exist from the National Environment Act number 5 of 2019. But the National Environment Act number 5 of 2019 came as a result of a review of the old law, that was the National Environment Act Cap 153, which was passed in 1995. So because of things like emerging environment issues, things that were not considered earlier, the law was reviewed, and the National Environment Act number 5 of 2019 came into being, and that is the act that establishes NEMA. In our work, in our coordination, monitoring, regulation role, we work with lead agencies. NEMA is a principal agency, but we work with lead agencies. Now, lead agencies are agencies of government that are charged with the responsibility of managing specific components of environment. If I could give examples, for example, National Forestry Authority is a government agency responsible for the management of central forest reserves. Uganda Wildlife Authority would be the one in charge of protected areas and wildlife. There are urban and local authorities specifically charged with the management of the different jurisdictions that they manage. So NEMA, as a principal agency, supervises these lead agencies in aspects of environment. So by and large, that is the structure within which we operate, and basically that is NEMA's role. Out of the broad 4 roles of NEMA, they are broken down into several others, like undertaking environment and social impact assessment. Reviewing environment and social impact assessments, issuing some licenses, some bits of enforcement. So it's a whole dynamic of how we operate. But explained simply, we are a principal agency. We supervise lead agencies in the field of environment. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And now to Clinton, tell us a bit about Climate Hub International.
Okay, thanks very much, Josephine. Climate Hub International is actually an international social enterprise that was designed to deliver those specific mitigation objectives around ESG. And us, we focus a lot on different cross-cutting priority areas, like the way here it's a hub. It's a hub. A hub means it's a one-stop shop that can work with different stakeholders like NEMA to provide solutions to bring down the carbon footprint and to reduce on the dangers that we find into the carbon catastrophes that is happening right now, also to find solutions how we can reduce on the global warming. We developed 4 dotted lines to 4 cross-cutting priority areas. The first one is carbon literacy. Climate Hub is one of those organizations that we are mandated to implement and execute the carbon literacy programs on behalf of carbon literacy projects in Manchester, United Kingdom. We advocate for the awareness and impact of the climate catastrophes. And then we also have, we provide and promote solutions around eco-friendly products. When we talk about eco-friendly products, definitely I would not leave not to talk about renewable energy products. We promote renewable energy products, and then we also execute some of the afforestation activities. We're running the Go Green campaigns with schools, other entities, even corporate organizations as a way to implement part of their ESG. And then we also do, we connect the biogas digesters and the end users. For instance, if for Josephine you produce biogas, we identify the end user to reduce on the cutting of trees. And then lastly, we also do what we call the ESG aspects in regards to helping organizations to implement ESG. We do sustainability auditing, and then we show you what gaps do organizations really miss out in their sustainability framework as far as organizations are concerned. Yeah, in that nutshell, I think that's all we do. Climate Hub International. Maybe just let you know, we've spread out in other 8 countries, and all the 8 countries report to Uganda as a regional office. We're in Chad, we're in Botswana, we're in Ethiopia, we're in South Africa, we're in Tanzania, and then Sierra Leone. Yeah.
It's interesting. I like that they report to Uganda. Usually it's the reverse. We are the ones reporting somewhere else.
Absolutely.
But on the lighter note, going back to our topics today, one of them, or one of the aspects we're discussing today, is environmental social impact assessments. So, Leila, I would like you to tell us more about those and why should we care about them? You know, the term seems so complicated. Like for those people, some people that side who handle it, but why should we get to know about this and care about it?
Thank you so much, Josephine. Environmental and social impact assessments, commonly what we refer to as ASIA. So when you hear me refer to ASIA, I'm actually referring to environmental and social impact assessments. Initially, we used to call them EIS, and we were not looking at the concept of society. It was embedded into environment. But with the change in law, as Tony said, one of the amendments of the law brought in the aspects of society. So, but also at the end of the day, that's the norm out there. Everyone assesses environment with social. So commonly we call them environmental and social impact assessments, ASIAN. These are analytical processes that systematically examine the likely environmental and social impacts of any development project. It looks at other concerns of an activity. It evaluates different measures, takes into account different designs, appropriate mitigations. It looks at the management and monitoring measures. When you're doing this, you're taking into consideration of the social, economic aspects, the cultural aspects, the human and health impacts. And when you assess all this, you encompass both the advantage, but also the benefits. So it is analytical, let's say it's an assessment tool that helps you to look at an activity or a development project where you evaluate the potential impacts of a project, both to society and the environment. Why should we care? Everyone would want development. We would love the roads, we would love the hydropower plants, we would love the quarries. Talk of development. We would love this building as beautiful as it is, the URA building. But why should we care? Environmental protection is one. When we understand the different impacts that come with it, it helps us to ensure that we mitigate these impacts. And in the process, we are protecting the ecosystem. We are conserving biodiversity, we are minimizing pollution, and we are helping to restore depollution. We are conserving for generation. On top of just environmental protection, it helps us to handle risk management. Just as you know that the different risks that come with it, talk about the environmental risks of pollution, habitat destruction, climate change impacts, just as our colleague Clinton has pointed out, the different social risks, less of conflict, the human rights violations, community unrest. When you look at all this, it helps you to manage the risk, thus protecting the people and the environment. On top of environmental protection, risk management, we also look at safeguarding well-being, the social well-being. Just as we've said that not only do we assess the impact of environment, but we also assess the impact of the social impacts. When you look at the different social impacts that come with it, it helps us to point out factors like displacement of people. If you're getting a settled livelihood and you're introducing a development, are you mindful, or are you taking into account the effects of displacement? Are you mindful on the livelihoods, change of livelihoods? We've had instances, for example, take an example of Karuma hydropower plant. This was a totally remote area. You're introducing a mega facility there. It comes with a number of people. It comes with people with a lot of money. These are traditionally, let's say, fishermen, traditionally farmers. You're introducing a completely different setup of livelihood. So are you minding the loss of the original settlements, the loss of the original community? Are you looking at cultural heritage? What are some of these things that we are trading that are so mindful to community just because we want to introduce this development? Are we mindful of it? Are we looking at the public health? Most developments come with a lot of people, human resource, in huge numbers. Look at a road construction. Imagine it crosses a number of districts. But are you mindful of the human resource that's coming there? Are you mindful the social impact that it's causing, the health change in society? So when you understand these impacts, you're able to protect the rights and well-being and the quality of the affected communities. It also helps you in planning well, making well decisions. Who are the different components, as I said, who are the different lead agencies that you pull up, manage. You also look at sustainable development. When you understand the effects and impacts of a particular project, you are able to mitigate it, and it's able to maintain its operations for some time. You don't want any development, for example, where it works within a short time and society is up in arms with it. So sustainability in development actually doesn't count out. It helps us, assessments help us promote stakeholder consultation. One of the aspects or processes that we look at when we're carrying out assessments is stakeholder consultation. Just as Tony pointed out, when you're, for example, dealing with a hydropower plant, Ministry of Energy is key. You'll have to go to Ministry of Energy, find out their views. The Tangbo district, let's say it's in Kanungu. Kanungu is key. The community of the people, the LC1, the different people that are affected, they are key. So once you get all their views, all their concerns, and their expert opinion, because they're the ones who know the sector more than you, you are able to incorporate all their ideas, and you understand, and everyone is in tandem with the project. So it will be a project that's acceptable to very many people. Why should we care? Legal compliance. I don't think you would want a project that's operating when you're not cooperating or you're not complying to the legal provisions of the law. Different countries, different societies have different legal obligations that you have to meet. So, and most countries, I've not heard of few countries that are not really actually in for assessments. So you will have benefits of legal compliance. You will also have, we shall have enhanced decision making. Not every project that is good in itself is worth development. But once we are able to assess this project and understand the pros and the cons, the benefits and the diverse impacts, we are able to decide and have an informed decision on whether to have it or not. Thank you so much, Josephine.
Okay, I listened and waited for tax compliance.
Legal compliance.
I think it is under
exactly. Legal compliance comes with very many. I didn't just break it down because of time.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah, but
maybe you're just worried that you're not one of the stakeholders they need to.
Hey, I'm concerned. You said stakeholders. I waited for URA. Then she said compliance. I waited for tax. But anyway,
maybe it's high level.
It comes without say. It comes without say, because as you'll notice within the Asia process, we actually look at payment of Asia fees, and when the time comes, we actually pay to URA. So tax compliance goes without mission.
Yeah, because we have to keep collecting. But let's not enter. We might end up tamping on EFRIS, which has already brought so many concerns. let's stick to the environment for now. So what is NEMA's role in these assessments that you've talked about? Because they seem very, like, it seems like a lot of work. So where does NEMA come in, or, you know, how does it support?
Just as Tony pointed out, we are a legal entity mandated by the law. And Section 9 of the Environment Act of 2019 stipulates clearly the roles of NEMA in what we do a day process. But specifically in the topic of discussion today, NEMA's role in the ASIA process, first of all, we review and make decisions on all kinds of assessments submitted to the institution. Whether it's an environmental and social impact assessment, whether it's a compliance audit, or any other studies like monitoring reports, environmental and social management plans, we review and make decisions. Not only do we review, but we issue environmental compliance certificates, what everyone commonly calls the NEMA certificate. But actually, it's not a NEMA certificate. It's an environmental and social impact assessment. It's a compliance assessment. We also issue permits and licenses. It's one thing to have a certificate, which gives you the different conditions of operation. It's another thing to have a license. For example, you're setting up an industrial facility. You're having an industrial facility, it comes with different auxiliary components. For example, an effluent treatment plant. You will need a license to operate and own the effluent treatment plant. You have a facility that is by a lakeshore. For example, you're putting up this very nice beach, hotel, whatever it is. You will need a permit, a lakeshore user permit to operate that facility. But this is issued after you have obtained an environmental and social impact assessment for that facility. We undertake and coordinate environmental monitoring, inspections, and also compliance audits. Because at the end of the day, when these conditions are issued, it comes with compliance to conditions. Unlike a trading license or a trading permit or certificate, which is a one-pager, a NEMA certificate comes with conditions, which you have to follow and comply with. So we monitor, we inspect to ensure that you're complying day to day. After all, when you comply, it comes with benefits to the facility. It increases your operations, it increases your financial base, and you're able to comply with different regulations, revenue collection and tax collection. Public participation and stakeholders. We've had projects where the big projects get into public disclosure, but even the small projects, we ensure we have compliance with community. The community has actually accepted, and LC1 or the community, the affected people have to accept. So we go ahead to consult and find out, have you understood this project? Have you understood the impacts? Do you appreciate the different mitigation measures that have been suggested to you? Do you appreciate them? Or are there indigenous, locally appropriate mitigation measures that are different from theory? Sometimes theories have not worked well. We've had situations where, for example, a very small example of tree planting. Theoretically, you may have these tree species that are very good, but locally in that particular area, they don't do well. So indigenous knowledge comes in. That is the beauty of stakeholder consultation. We look at capacity building and awareness. NEMA plays a very big role where we impact knowledge. We do training on ASIAs, different entities, whether the different consultants that are involved, or the different lead agencies that are involved, or even the developers and the companies themselves that run facilities. We also collaborate with other lead agencies, just as Tony pointed out our mandate as an institution. When we review these assessments, we send them to different appropriate lead agencies. An energy project will actually go to Ministry of Energy. A project in Kampala will go to KCCA. A project, let's say for road construction, will go to Ministry of Works. A water project will go to Ministry of Water. So we collaborate with other lead agencies. But we also regulate environmental practitioners, who we call consultants. We regulate them because we license them to carry out these activities on top of a developer, on behalf of a developer. So in our role in the ASIA process, we regulate the different consultants that carry out assessments. Thank you so much, Josephine.
Thank you so much. So that seems like a lot and elaborate. But now let's go back a bit to Climate Hub at Clinton. I picked up on carbon literacy. Even the last time we were here, it's something that was a bit interesting. I thought you'd maybe talk about carbon literacy.
Okay. before I talk about carbon literacy, maybe allow me to ask you a question. Even my colleagues here, the guys, lately, have you noticed, or how many of you ever thought that the climate actions could actually appear in your job descriptions, apart from the practitioners like you? Do you know it's happening now? I don't know whether it's incorporated into your job output when you get your appointment letter.
Not really, but
Simplify.
Yeah?
Simplify.
Directly. And this we're heading to, guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can tell you, facts for sure. Carbon literacy is just an awareness of the impact of the climate change activities and catastrophes that are happening globally. We simply don't come and tell you solutions, but we try and teach you what would be the causes of what's happening right now. It's an awareness of the carbon literacy activities. We provide solutions. We provide programs that can educate people. What are the impacts that happens after the climate catastrophes, and what would be the best solutions? And then we also teach stakeholders what would be the best way to cut down the carbon footprints and the greenhouse gases. So it's a component that comes with a package and teaching videos, organizations, and companies about what are the best activities to cut down some of these carbon footprints. These are the only programs where we advocate and train people your own carbon footprint. Leila and Tony and Josephine, did you drive here today at work?
Yes.
You drove?
Yeah.
I can ask you, how many liters did you put in your car today?
I know.
You get what I'm saying? But have you ever thought of calculating your own carbon footprint? And that's not only driving. You get it? But the different ways, there's so many ways we generate. You know, the climate catastrophes and the global warming is caused by we, the human beings. You understand?
And also with the rate of cars that we have now.
Absolutely.
The pollution rates are very high.
Absolutely. And you know what's killing the planet? It's because people are ignorant.
Yeah.
You get it? So that's the full package where we advocate carbon literacy. We coordinate it every after 3 months. We report to Carbon Literacy Project in Manchester, United Kingdom. And Uganda is the only country that looks after all the 8 countries and coordinate carbon literacy. So this is the only way we bring stakeholders like you. We work with stakeholders like NEMA, NFA, and then teach people how to pave way to carbon neutral. You will definitely find those stakeholders that have ventured into afforestation and they're purely planting trees, not knowing what would be the best species that can benefit the industry or the country in regards to the greenhouse gases absorptions in the atmosphere. So these are programs that educate stakeholders, people like you, practitioners like my colleagues here, how the best way to cut down these greenhouse gases and emissions that we normally pollute in the atmosphere. Entirely, that's carbon literacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It's a two-day program.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to do it for 10 hours. So we do 5 hours a day and 5 hours the next day. And then later on, we here on ground, we take you through and coordinate what we call writing a physical evidence paper. The physical evidence paper, you send it to UK to be certified as a carbon literate. If you excel well and your paper is literally nice, good, it's presented to the CLAD. CLAD is a Carbon Literacy Action Day, which are usually presented when COP happens. So this time around this year, when you present a nice paper to CLAD, your paper is sent to COP29 this year.
Okay.
That's carbon literacy.
Okay, so it's like a course, we have to pay for it?
It's a course which is mainly sent to the regulators, because let me ask you, NEMA, you're regulating practitioners.
Yes.
Yeah, I come and tell you I'm a qualified environmental practitioner. And then I can ask you when you're assessing stakeholders and factories and FMCGs organizations, do you take them through? Have they mitigated the risks involved, the carbon that they're going to be emitting in the space? So these are the people we start with. Right now we're running a program with USSC because they regulate different stakeholders like the telecoms, the media houses. You understand? If you go to the MTN, for instance, or Airtel, and then you ask them, do you guys, let me have a look at your sustainability structure. Are they qualified? Can someone actually come and tell me that this is the carbon footprint MTN produces on a monthly basis? You get it?
Yeah.
Okay. those are the people we focus on. But even on an individual basis, because it improves your knowledge about the greenhouse gases, the emissions, and then the carbon footprint on an individual basis. Tony, you're busy investing a lot of your money in livestock, but you don't know it's the biggest of activity in farming that emits emissions in space.
A lot of methane.
Yeah, a lot of
Methane, you understand. So however much they're responding to poverty reduction, as far as the 17 SDGs are concerned, because we need food. But what plan do you have to bring down the methane? And it's one of the dangerous greenhouse gases that goes into the space. So these are some of the programs we take you through.
That's interesting. I think that's information I'd personally be interested in. You know, also when you go for the interview and you show your papers, add carbon neutral.
It's an added advantage. In fact,
Added advantage.
Yeah,
but Steven, it's the in thing. So at the end of the day, if you don't know
It's the thing, yeah.
carbon trading, carbon trading, it's really the in thing.
Can I tell you something, guys? It's in the banking industry, especially banks that are trying to get close to the green financing, grants, and recapitalizing in the banks. This is something they require. Can we have a look at your sustainability organization structure that can easily have an ESG framework in your workplace?
Yes.
It's a requirement lately. That's why I asked you guys, do you know that the climate change activities and solutions should be part of your job description?
That's true.
You understand? So it's one thing that we need to look into. So please enroll.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to add on, it is also true that certain projects, even for in the Ugandan context, that need to be funded, some developers are asked for NEMA, approvals before they can be financed. So
you see,
it's really embedded in the day-to-day development.
Proximity principle. It's a requirement.
You see, on the same point, guys, perhaps you guys should also consider your rate at which partnership is being executed at your workplace.
Well,
unless you clearly you're not considering that 17th SDG in your work
we
plan.
are considering that. We are.
Yeah?
We are.
Yeah, but my other colleagues on the other side, they're like, I don't know what it takes to become a partner with NEMA. You know what I'm saying, guys?
Yeah.
I will address that a little later. A little later, it's
I know. I feel like the discussion is escalating, but don't jump. Don't jump to the future. We're going to talk about ESG and we're going to talk about the things. So back to Leila, still taking us through Asia. You know, I kept seeing it and I was thinking, wow, do they say this one? But let me stick to calling it the assessment. That one I know. So that assessment that you're telling us about.
The Asia assessment.
The assessment. Who's required to do it?
Thank you so much, Josephine. It actually depends on the project being undertaken. Any project or any development with potential and significant environmental and social impacts is subject to environmental and social impact assessments. The law is very clear. The National Environment Act is very clear. When you look at Schedule 4 of the NEA, what we call the National Environment Act, it stipulates the kinds of projects. Just if I'm to take you through just a very small snapshot, if you look at Schedule 4 of the Act, it stipulates those different projects that are supposed to, categories of projects that are supposed to do project briefs, for example. Anything in transport equipment related. So talk about public roads, the different airstrips, water transport facilities, anything to deal with communication facilities, anything to deal with exploration, transmission, generation, anything to deal with utilization of water. Those are just categories. Anything to deal with housing and urban development. Josephine, allow me to dwell on this small. In the old Act, it looked at different evolution of impacts in environment. We never had education facilities carry out assessments. We never had churches carry out assessments. In the current schedule or in the current law, when you look at this category of housing and urban developments, construction of planned settlement of housing estates, anything to deal with construction and expansion of health centers, anything to deal with establishment of cemeteries, places of worship, you all know how different places of worship are really getting out of hand on issues of impact. We look at recreational centers, including playgrounds, tennis courts, football pitches, sensitive ecosystems, washing bays, anything outside an environmental, anything within a sensitive system. So those ones submit by way of project brief. But also, Schedule 5, you submit assessment by way of a full Asia, what we are now calling the Asia, a full scope, where you start with terms of reference. In that category, for example, I can just take you through a snapshot. When we still go through the category of transport, you're looking at, for example, those roads and access, a mileage that is way beyond, let's say, something that's beyond 6 meters in width. That one is a full assessment. It's not a community small road that you're just taking through a footpath through community. Anything to deal with airstrips, that is a full assessment. Anything to deal with communication facilities, it's a full assessment. Transportation, hydropower, anything beyond, look at all our mini hydros that are beyond 2 megawatts. Those ones go through full assessments. Taking you back to housing, remember we mentioned some areas. But now, here, for facilities, shopping centers and commercial complexes, they are subject to full edges. Construction of warehouses, full edges. Expansion, education and research institutions. So someone will come and tell you, may I just want to get a license from Ministry of Education? I don't need an assessment. You need a full assessment. Because we actually notice that most of these education facilities are putting their fields or playgrounds in wetland sections. So they are liable to full assessments. But also at the end of the day, even when you're not in that category that we've mentioned about, the schedules are clear. We shall go back and look at them. So long as your activity is in an environmentally sensitive place, you're liable to an assessment. You have a facility that's within a wetland area, a facility within a lake shore, a facility within a riverbank, a hilltop, a mountainous area. All those are liable to assessments. Now, someone will say, you've talked about those that are liable to assessment. What about us? Who are those that are exempted? The schedules are clear. Schedule 11 talks about those that are exempted. A case in point, I'm clearing my land for farming, specifically subsistence farming. I don't need to run and carry out an assessment because we imagine the impacts are not significant. They are manageable. But if you're carrying out commercial farming, hectares of land, we've heard about rice farming, those ones are liable to assessment. You are constructing a residential house. I'm renovating my personal home. I don't need to run for an assessment. Unlike you're this category of people who are having homes at those reasonable places like lake shores, those ones are liable to assessment in any way. We even have a presidential directive where they are not one. They are not liable. So the reason why now, when we say you're exempted, if you're exempted but you're having cumulative impact, you were candidate for assessment. I'll give you a small example. Someone will say, I have my facilities, I'm putting up rental houses. Rental houses actually become apartments. Before they become apartments, they are units. They are sections. The person has a unit here, a unit there, a unit here. Before you know it, it's an acre of land. That is what we call cumulative impact. Those ones are liable to assessment. So in a nutshell, Josephine, anyone or having a project with potential environmental impacts is liable to carry out assessment. But the key word here is significant. Our aim is we want you to establish the significant impacts and establish the mitigation measures so that we can have a project where we have managed and mitigated the different impacts and live in harmony with the environment and society. Thank you.
So in case it's not significant, but I consider it something prudent to do, am I still invited to come and carry out?
Sure. Why not? Why not? First of all, most of us have thought that assessments are basically for legal compliance. An assessment is of benefit to you as an individual. Daily, we've done assessments unknowingly. I'll give you an example. You're getting out, then you tell your friend, look out, is it about rain? I think I need an umbrella, I need a coat. Maybe I need to go out early, I need to come. That's not an assessment. Most of us have bought land, you're going to construct your home. And you watch out and start saying, I think I need to level this ground. I bought land at a hilltop, I need to level it. Not necessarily are you backfilling for those that buy in wetlands. You're not backfilling. That's only an assessment. Most of us, these days, it's a common thing to construct with the blocks, the concrete blocks. Most of us look out and we say, if I use bricks, I'll use a lot of money. I'll need a lot of cement. I'll need so many workers. The time for work is behind. If I use a block, little cement will go how much it's expensive. That's already an assessment. So we are actually doing assessments on a day-to-day basis. The difference is, for those impacts that are not significant, they are manageable. That's why you see the law talks of the word significant. They are manageable. We can address them within our means. You don't need to do an assessment that's required of legal obligation or for statutory obligation. For those that we can manage, we assess them on a daily basis. So it's very important. We've had people who have sent in their scoping to the institution. You look through. Not necessarily going to give them a certificate, but just to look through and give them a no objection. We call it a no objection.
No objection.
That yes, we appreciate. You don't qualify for an assessment, but when we looked at your impacts, the mitigation measures you've identified or you have proposed, you're good to go. Implement. We give a no objection. We are doing this for greening facilities. We are doing this for recreational facilities. Let's say you're coming up with a tree planting project that is at a small scale. We are doing this for, let's say, energy saving projects. Someone is coming up with a project that's dealing with energy efficiency. You don't need to run to NEMA. You don't need to say I'm doing it for obligatory purposes because it comes with a cost, as we shall see later. So we give what we call a no objection, because not only do we assess for legal obligations, but we also help society to ensure we comply with environmental requirements.
Thank you so much for that. So now that we've gotten to know that these assessments are required, how do we know if someone, how can we confirm? You know, if I find people maybe engaging in one of the activities that you've talked about, maybe constructing something that I perceive to have a significant impact, how do I know that that person has carried out an easier? How is there a database I can check? You know, who do we contact? Like, how do we figure it out?
All right. Thank you, Josephine. First of all, like Leila said earlier, the projects that are required to undertake a full ASIA are known. They're listed in the National Environment Act. So if one is not sure whether the project either requires an ASIA or not, the list is available. Okay. Now, if you see a development taking place and it is among the categories that are listed, and you want to know whether or not it has been approved, first of all, environment management is a decentralized function. That is why we have the lead agencies. And if you are not able, because of one reason or another, to approach the specific developer, you can, through, let's say, your LC or your local council, find out whether or not they are aware of that project, because the assessment process needs to get comments from the lead agency, from the local government and the lead agency. However, to add on that, one of the conditions in all the NEMA certificates, ASIA certificates, is that they have to be displayed. All ASIA certificates have to be displayed. And if one does not display the ASIA certificate, that is a criminal offense. And it is not only displaying of the certificate, you have to display the conditions as well. Okay, so because of that condition that I will say is a constant in all our certificates, through the respective lead agencies or the local government, you can approach the entity or the developer and ask to be shown that certificate. Okay, so we have had incidents where some just display only the face or the cover, and the conditions are not displayed. Sometimes that happens because they are not complying to the conditions they are in. So that is the reason why we encourage and condition all certificates to be displayed at the premises with all the conditions. I mentioned about it being a criminal offense to not to display the certificate, and that is in section 157 of the National Environment Act. And maybe for your interest, for an individual who doesn't display, the fine can go up to 100,000 currency points, which is, I think, about 2 billion shillings, or imprisonment, or both. Then for a corporate body, it's 500,000 currency points, which is 10 billion shillings. So when you find out, for example, that a development does not have a certificate, or that they have refused to show it to you, if maybe you are, let's say, a local government representative of a lead agency, and a developer has not allowed you to access the certificate, you can contact NEMA. NEMA is accessible in many ways. One, you are able to physically walk to our head office on Ginger Road. We also have regional offices across the country. We have in Mbale to cater for Eastern Uganda. We have in Lira for Northern Uganda. There is one in Hoima for the Albertine region. And then there is another in Mbarara to cater for the Southwestern region. And plans are underway to set up more regional offices, specifically in West Nile and the northeastern part of Uganda. With time, we shall have a little more. The other alternative is to write to us via email. We have an active email address, which is info@nema.go.ug. We have a toll-free line that is 0800 144 144. We're also available on social media, that is X, NEMA-UG, on Instagram, nema.ug, on LinkedIn, National Environment Management Authority, and we also have a WhatsApp channel, which is the National Environment Management Authority. But those are some of the channels with which you can get to us. However, I'm also glad to inform our viewers that we are going electronic, we are going digital. And right now we are in the process, we have actually started implementing ELMIS. ELMIS is an environment licensing management information systems. Okay, now through that system, assessments and reviews of such projects are all going to be online. So there is going to be a database where, you know, these details are available. So if you're able to access it, if you have the rights and you're granted access to this system, you will be able to see whether a project has been given a green light by NEMA. So the channels are really many, and we're also enhancing our technology. We are going digital. So very soon it will be impossible to undertake a project without approval from the authority. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Just maybe you've tapped a bit into the penalties.
Yes.
Of not carrying out an ASIA.
Yes.
Are there any other dangers or threats of not carrying out one?
Not only, there are very many dangers and threats of not carrying out an assessment. You lead to aggravated and irreversible environmental and social impacts with no potential alternatives. If you have a project, you know, when we say an environment assessment, you're looking at what are those alternatives that we are not trading off, that we are trading off. Let me give an example of a road. You have a road alignment. You have your routing that you've established. But that road is passing through a trading center, a very big trading center. What does it mean? All the livelihood is to be lost. It's passing through a major wetland, and maybe the options of having suspended bridging and suspended construction is not practical. You're trading off. So you have aggravated and irreversible impacts. Those are one of the threats if you do not carry out. But also you'll have strong opposition and non-acceptance. You've had stone quarries, for example. You've had where people are able, they are busy rioting. They refuse a project. They get into community mobilization. We do not encourage mob justice in community, But if you do not have what we call social acceptance of a project, you'll find it hard. To one extent, the very people that you think you're bringing a project to will become thieves in your project. At the end of the day, they will not even give you the technologies or the easier ways of operating. So you lose out on that willingness and compliance for people. You also miss out on accessing funding, just as Clayton hinted on it. These days, we are operating within what we call a proximity principle. Proximity principle means for any funding that you get, we want to ensure that you're going to utilize this money in projects that do not harm the environment. And among the things they look out for is proof that you actually carried out an assessment. Carrying an assessment alone without having clearance from authority that is mandated to clear you is no proof. So if you don't have an ASIA certificate, you miss out on funding. And on a daily basis, these are things we deal with. Someone is missing out on funding because maybe they didn't carry out an assessment, or they are submitting late and they're on pressure. And yet there's particular timelines that you have to follow to carry out this assessment. But also, you miss out on obtaining other approvals, relevant approvals. You know, where the world has reached, no one wants to dump their money or to risk on investing on something. It is not environmentally friendly. So you find that most of these approvals are tagged onto the ASIA certificate. You go to Ministry of Energy, you want to trade in petroleum, they will tell you, before you do anything, put here an NEMA certificate. You get into, you want to blast something, you want chemicals, let's say you're getting them from Ministry of Defense, they will tell you, put here a NEMA license. So you miss out on approvals or other relevant approvals that you need to get. But you also miss out on implementation and identification of innovative opportunities that are efficient to use. As we've realized that when we are carrying out assessment, not only does it look at alternatives in location, but also assessment looks at alternatives in design, alternatives in processes, alternatives in workforce. So you look at it and say, if, for example, I want to operate a sugar factory, let's say, I want to make sugar. What is this appropriate technology? What are its impacts? You look at another design. You look through the different processes. What is the impact? So at the end of the day, if you don't do an assessment, you'll lie to and think that what you zero to is the best. And yet if you carried out an assessment, you're open to different alternatives that you can assess, innovative ways that will have minimal impacts, mitigable impacts. So you stick on to something that is expensive, but at the end of the day, it's not friendly to you. It is not something that you can get. But also, you look at fines and charges. You lose revenue. Just imagine, as Tony pointed out, the penalties. There are different penalties for not carrying out. Who would want to pay 2 billion when even your capital is not 2 billion? Really? At the end of the day, you lose revenue. You lose capital. You are unable to comply with taxation. You are unable to comply with your resource base. You lose capital because you're busy running around with fines. Just imagine a situation, you're working, you don't have a certificate. Tomorrow the enforcement team comes, you stop operations. Anything within the production lane stops. Or anything that you're introducing within a system is put on hold. You have a client who's supposed to supply, you can't supply because them has told you hold operations. So at the end of the day, you lose revenue, you lose income, and you're unable to comply with systems. But reputational loss, goodwill. One, we know brands out there that I will not really mention because that's saved for another day. We are having the environmental awards coming as part of our World Environment Day. Maybe we shall get to know from there those that are compliant. But who doesn't want to be mentioned as the most compliant facility? I remember years back when we were encouraging different facilities to have effluent treatment plants. This, you'll forgive me, let me mention it. Nile Breweries came out and championed. Against all hold, no matter the cost that it comes with, Nile Breweries came out and set up a first-class effluent treatment plant. Sincerely, however much as I am not in for the products of Nile Breweries, but the environmental step that they took, the aspect that they took, it's a plus to the organization. It's a plus for them. So who doesn't want that goodwill? Who doesn't want that environmentally compliant facility to operate with? But also, when you look at into what we call environmental economics, at the end of the day, when you have your operations that have minimal loss onto the environment, operations where your contaminants are minimal, you actually don't make losses. Because when you look at all the effluents that we take out, the emissions that we take out, it's actually our very products that are getting out into the environment. So for you think you're actually having a bypass for effluent, you're having your emissions easily just taken out without going through a cleaning mechanism, but it's part of your products that you're not tapping back into the system. You're unable to recycle them. What does it mean? You're operating in losses. So the concept of environmental economics doesn't come in because you actually didn't do assessment. So at the end of the day, the threats are many, but we just have to ensure we comply within the regulations, not only for legal obligations, but for our own economic benefit, to ensure that our capital base is high and we're able to comply with resources, but also to ensure we are moving within a very beneficial business. Who would want to operate a business which is in losses and it's not having a tax base taxable? You will have to convince URA that actually you're not making profit, and they will not understand. They will look at your installation and you tell them I'm operating within losses. They will not understand. The tax collector will tell you, no, you're lying. Let's look through your operations, but you're actually in losses because most of your things are going out as byproducts through emissions, either through effluent or through air emissions. So thank you so much, Josephine.
Oh, thank you. I think on a Friday like this one, when a hajat, I mean, leave it. A hajat, a konedemu library. But yeah, that's, as you can see, if they've implemented something so good that someone, I don't want to say put her religion on hold, but she could point it out. Yeah, that's a good thing. And then I've been to Nile breweries, and it's I think the thing they mentioned that gives them a bit of a hard time in terms of recycling was glass, because I think we don't have a glass recycling plant or something in Uganda. I think they have to take it to Tanzania, something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
But they are doing a lot of research on it. The institutions also help them with research on it. And I know soon will be
But it's commendable. I'm also not really advocating for their products, but it's just commendable that I think they recycle 98% of their things. The way they've worked the whole system out in the place in terms of how they bring in the things, how they take into consideration the different things. Maybe the lesser known tax of excise duty. Usually people don't argue about it like EFRIS because they don't feel it when they're paying it. But excise duty impacts certain things that these different factories incorporate when they are doing the manufacturing. But now breweries has tried to adjust as much as possible so that they can reduce that excise duty, what they pay. But in that sense, they're also supporting so many producers, so many farmers around for most of the things, the raw materials that they use. And now that brings us to the concept of ESG. It's the talk, like everywhere. Some people are wondering, is it a fuss? Is it a fad? I mentioned it even last time that when we were studying, at first it was the triple bottom line. Then it was, is it people, planet, and profit? So now I hear ESG. And maybe Clinton can tell us more about that.
I like it. Perhaps what I'm appreciating today, before I even talk about ESG, can you guys let the viewers the turnaround time around when you start assessing those stakeholders who are really want to get certified? And then I like it when you say that it has to be displayed. Displayed where? In offices or on our social media platforms?
At the premise.
At the premises.
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting. So you know, I can be there when sometimes I'm auditing. I love to do sustainability audit like what I'm already doing with you people here. I didn't see that aspect of sustainability law anywhere. Don't know whether you guys have corporate social responsibility department here. I don't know.
It's the department you're in right now.
Oh, it's the department.
That we are the ones you're dealing with. And he mentioned there are some activities that they are organizing. Me as Jojo, I'm determined to to win. I don't know if it's a competition.
Oh,
Whatever it is,
Okay.
we are going to be there. We're going to take the lead. We're going to win. Whatever it is. So
Okay. All right. Josephine and the colleagues out there, especially the viewers, you cannot fight climate change without understanding what drives it. Guys, you can't. You can't. However much we are trying to create food for the future, and then I can tell you fact for sure that the human generated gases are causing problems. When I was teaching the sustainability classes last year, one of the delegates that I was speaking to, and I was talking about sustainability, and I'm like, okay, you guys, the gases that you generate are the problems. Someone asked me, Clinton, what kind of dish or menu is that I can eat so that my gas is the one generating the greenhouse? You see, I saw that she completely doesn't know what I'm talking about. If I start talking about the greenhouse gases, then I start talking about the methane, the fluorinated acid, the nitrous acid. Then the jargonistic
you
terms.
sound like in a chemistry class, and some of us chemistry didn't handle us well.
Exactly. Now the carbon literacy can help you understand that I need to get into this class. The jargons we use in the climate space classes, it's too much. So when we come here to deliver the carbon literacy, we customize and speak the language that you guys want to hear. Yeah. Now, there's what we call the global warming potential that have been contributed by these greenhouse gases, the methane, the carbon dioxide. People should know how much these greenhouse gases stay in space there. You know what? You can't know, not until you have a proper structured ESG framework in your organization. What do I mean by ESG? Of course, we all know it's environment, social, governance. But do you know how to implement it? Very hard. So many of you guys can think about afforestation. Let's take back trees where they used to belong. That's part of environment. Yeah. I like it, NEMA, when NEMA provides, okay, guys, what do we do with the 360 waste management? You guys, you do not know that waste is money. Yeah. For those of you watching us today, I can tell you it's only waste when you waste it.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you waste it. I don't know whether you guys you're taxing people are collecting bottle and plastic. I don't know. It's one of the fast moving. Yeah.
It's a service. It's value addition.
Yeah. Okay.
Efris.
Okay.
Justified.
Okay. For those of you, especially the viewers, ESG, these are just issues that can be considered in investing, especially in organizations. These are frameworks. I know most organizations have reporting frameworks, but I can tell you the way we report about sustainability is lacking. Yeah, you can only get an ESG certificate when you maybe you're attached to NEMA or when you're attached to the global reporting frameworks, the GRI that sit in Canada. So ESG is purely a framework that can guide and governs an organization's philosophy. And you see, ESG it has three components. You may focus that, okay, our philanthropic is going to focus around only an environment, and you invest in environment. You can decide that, okay, guys, what do we do about skilling and developing internal the human capital? That's why I asked you that, have you taken note that the climate activities should appear in our job description? Okay, though it sits somewhere in a particular department, then there's also governance. Josephine, Tony, and Leila, we're going to enroll for carbon literacy classes. You come back to your workplace. You're being called to go to the board to explain your targets, so to speak, or your goals. And then you tell the board that, you know what, guys, this time around, I think the organizations are reduced on its carbon footprint. I can tell you one of the board members will be wondering, how are you?
You
know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and then one of your colleagues will say, hey, Josephine, what do you mean by carbon footprint? You understand? So governance is another area that should get to know about the carbon literacy and the ESG framework. That's why we have cohorts that sit on the sustainability team or department, so that they digest and then they advocate for the ESG aspect as a framework in organizations. Like the way here, it's the simplest way, it's environment, social, and governance. However, these are all sustainability dockets that require investment. So many of us are focusing on Go Green campaigns, afforestation, that we're planting 10,000 trees, but what species are you planting? that falls under forestation or under environment. Then I ask you, what's the essence? Why are you planting these trees? We planted 10,000 seedlings, we planted 2,000 seedlings. Are you sure you're planting? Do you even follow through? I think that should change.
Survival rate.
Yeah.
That should change. One thing that Climate Hub does, we have a tree app that we follow through. In fact, we tell people who are practicing in environmental activities, especially the Go Green campaigns, that please don't plant. At least try to grow it.
Yeah.
You get it?
Grow the
Because
That's an interesting one.
yeah, you should grow it.
Moving from planting to
Planting to
growing.
growing.
Yeah, so we should call
In
it
fact,
tree growing.
Yeah. Our first investment when we started rolling out the ESG framework in this country, we tried to partner with organizations like NEMA, though you guys didn't come through. We worked with Ministry of Defense to fight the poverty reduction in the country. Then we went into schools. We are trying as much as possible to teach these young generations, because now you guys, the climate problems you are struggling with, probably these are the carbon dioxide or the methane or the fluorinated acid that were generated 100 years ago, because they stay in the space for 100 to 1,000 years. Okay, now all the greenhouse gases that we literally have to know that contributes to the global warming potential, it appears when we advocate in the carbon legislation. So ESG is that framework that should be part of any organization strategy. And the companies should have a sustainability strategy. This is where we come in and audit and support you to identify what gaps do you have when you're developing a strategy. Before you bring all these stakeholder or strategic business units with annual game plans and strategies, I think it should be a department or a custodian responsible for the sustainability strategy to build up what you call a joint business plan. You understand? So ideally, all organizations should have an ESG framework or a plan. Yeah, that's what ESG means.
Okay, that's interesting. Actually, I feel like you're talking about it in terms of an organization, but I feel like if possible, people should have ESG embedded in themselves as individuals who also form part of the different organizations. Somewhere actually where they were saying that in simple terms, ESG, of course, there's environment, but the social is people and the culture, you know, and the person stressed that it was actually a Rotary engagement, and Rotary is one of those that I find to be big on supporting the environment. It's an area of focus there. And they were saying that culture was defined as what people can get away with.
Yeah.
And for example, littering. Once we open this, like how we've all opened the bottle of water, what you do with this, your culture, if you feel like you can throw it and get away with it, that's who you are. So you need to, like you're saying, starting with the children, they need to know these things. So it's very embarrassing. Someone is driving and then you see them throwing a kavera out of their kafuku.
They are comfortable with it.
Yes, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know. So there was that description. And then when it came to governance, it was again integrity. And if you put it in line with all these other things, even when no one is watching you, like they say usually, integrity is what you do when no one is watching.
When no one is watching.
Yeah, so it's important for us, even as individuals, to embed this. It's actually embarrassing how much paper we have here with us, the things we've printed out. So it's some of the changes that we need to be like mindful of.
By the way, I'm a former brewer. I worked in the bread for about 8 years. And I was in a commercial department that was only focusing on revenue, sales. So you can imagine. And there's so much into the innovations department whereby we need to fight competition. So guys, let's go into PET. Let's prepare sachets and even warranty. Okay. So at some point when I sit back and I'm like, okay, where are all these plastics and sachets that I sold way back? You understand? Then another thing is when you talk about the children that we need to teach about the ESG, that comes back into your own individual carbon footprint. When you talk about during school time, way back, we used to study the triple bottom line, TBL, because we don't know what it means. But TBL is actually ESG. TBL is actually people, profits, and planet. You get it. So now time has come. We either embrace what we studied way back, or we jump on the cohort that is planning or the core that had decided to go green and save this planet. It's an interesting area. If we stay here, we'll talk for.
Yes, actually, these sessions are always so engaging, and that's before we even, because I'm already seeing some questions are coming in. So just there, when we were talking about this, you kept saying greenhouse. What are greenhouse gases? In simple terms, for not the other she had started, which being us bad memories of chemistry.
I wish I could speak Swahili because it's one of those languages. Okay, the greenhouse gases. In the proper illustration, how these greenhouse gases are developed. You know, when we get the sun, the solar radiation, the sun, that energy comes on the Earth's surface, right? And then it meets activities we do on ground here, and then during the day, we're getting the sun radiations coming on the Earth. We are busy driving, cooking. Oh, Stony is producing charcoal, cutting trees down. Then what happens in the night? There's no sun. There's that energy that we generate and goes back into the space. But it's a glass that stops somewhere in the space, and then we formulate the greenhouse gases. And the 4 types of greenhouse gases. Mainly, the famous one is carbon dioxide. The beautiful cars and your very expensive car that you're driving, which is a Guzzler. In terms of fuel, right? And then we have the methane.
Yes.
Not to be scientific, methane. Wake up in the morning, go to your dumping site where Kasachiro is. After the suns, you see the gases that are coming out of the dumping site.
Some sort of vapor coming out.
That is the most dangerous whitish. The whitish. Someone can think that it's even burning. That's the most dangerous greenhouse gas. And then you have the fluorinated acid. We have the nitrous oxide. And all of these stay in space for more than 100 years. Guys, if we do not wake up now, our beautiful children are not going to
forms a seal up there.
Absolutely, that cannot go through.
Yeah,
can't go through. There's what we call the global warming potential, the GWP. The global warming depends on 3 factors. One of them is how much it exists in the atmosphere, these gases. Carbon dioxide contributes 76% of the global warming in the atmosphere, and it stays in space between 100 and 2,000 years. Then we have how long it remains in the atmosphere if you don't do anything, you understand, and then how effective it is in trapping heat. So the greenhouse gases are generated by we, the human beings. I want you guys to go on your mileage and see the kilometers on your dashboard. You call me, then we calculate, and I tell you how much you've contributed to the global warming. You understand? You might say that, clearly, me, I don't drive, maybe I'm riding, but you're riding chicken. Can I tell you something? We see activities that are done in this country. We all love the meat vendors. How many meat vendors do we have in this country?
Countless.
Countless, They start roasting that meat from, say, about 4 p.m. up to midnight. You see the carbon dioxide. You see that gas that is generated that goes into the space. What solution do we have? So those are the individual that we need to advocate and start training and teaching. NEMA, if you don't work with me, those guys will continue emitting emissions. These are the greenhouse gases I'm trying to talk about.
All right. So as we prepare to wrap up and take up some of the questions that are coming in, I just wanted to know about the process, the ASIA process. Maybe you can summarize for us, talk about the laws, any laws that govern the process, and then also the process, and then the fees. You alluded to some fees earlier. You could just take us through that real quick.
Thank you so much, Josephine. Just as Tony hinted, right now the Asia process is automated. We've gone through automation. It's a pretty new process. We began on 1st March. So you'll find that the usual NEMA assessment process is different from what everyone knows. But anyone out there interested, it's important to know the category they fall in. You remember the question you asked of who is supposed to carry out assessment. You have to know the category where you fall in to be able to understand the kind of assessment you're supposed to do. So you go to the website, the NEMA website, www.nema.go.uk, where you, first of all, you check out the type of process that you're supposed to do. You get into, you are able to understand the catalog of assessment. But also, when you establish this, you do it from the National Environment Act, as we explained, the Schedule 4, which explains on the project briefs, but also the Schedule 5, which tells you the kind of assessments you're supposed to do. This, you get it from still the website, on the catalog, on the field of atlases. It gives you the different laws and regulations. So for project briefs, if you're in the category of project briefs, as we explained, for those significant impacts that are manageable, that are not so big, for facilities that are not so broad. For example, you have a road project and you want to establish a camp, of which camp people will stay there as they construct. That is a project brief. That project brief can be submitted by the developer direct. In our assessment language, a developer is, let's say, the investor in a day-to-day language, the person who is developing the project. We call it a developer in our assessment process. That can be submitted by a developer directly without hiring a consultant. But if you know you cannot do it, they're out there, you consult them and hire them. This project is done in accordance with the Environmental and Social Assessment Regulations of 2020. The procedure is out clear, and in case you're carrying out a full environmental and social impact assessment, you hire a private licensed practitioner. These are the different licensed practitioners. The list is available on their website, still on the NEMA website, on the field of publications/practitioners. The approved list is out there. Practitioners are approved annually, and they are approved according to their expertise and their area of assessment. If someone is licensed or approved to carry out environmental and social impact assessments, and they are not licensed to carry out audits, it means their area is not in auditing. So you get into the website, the lists are there. The practitioner or consultant first submits what we call terms of reference and scoping. With this, it is submitted in accordance with the ASIA regulations, where they look at many impacts, how mitigatable they will be. It is a methodology of what they are going to do, how they are going to carry out the process. The impacts that they have identified, the stakeholders, many impacts, the different alternatives they will think they will have to somehow how they are going to carry out the process. So at the end of the day, they do scoping, and upon the scoping impacts, it is approved, it is sent to NEMA, it is a methodology. At the end of the day, you're given what we call a reference number. With this reference number, it is your identity, the way you have a TIN number in URA, which actually explains who you are and how you're complying or your tax procedure is. In NEMA, we call it a reference number, or we call a track code. So you're given a track code from which you follow up your processes. Now, when your terms of reference have been approved in accordance with Regulation 49, Part 2 of the National Environment or the Environmental and Social Impact Assessment Regulations, you undergo full assessment. When you get your regulation, your scoping report, you go and carry out a full assessment. The full assessment now expounds. You go back to the site, look at the project, look at the alternatives, look at the stakeholders involved. Each of these, you analyze the impacts that come out, and you make sure you give solutions to them. That you submit to NEMA. Upon submission, you also get what we call a non-refundable fee, a 30%, and this is payable to URA. This is in line with Regulation 49 of the assessment regulations. You pay a 30%, and this 30% fees are paid to URA. You get a receipt, you touch it on your tag with your full assessment report, you submit it to NEMA. Upon submission to NEMA, NEMA starts with the review process. With this review process, we look at the effectiveness of the assessment that the developer has submitted to us. Have the impacts been pointed out? We look at the location. Is it appropriate? You know, with the current directives of projects in wetlands, is it in an eco-friendly site? Is it in a wetland? We look at the different mitigations. Are they appropriate? You cannot say that if my project is going to emit noise, my solution I'm giving is I'll tell the people around to go away. That's not an appropriate mitigation. What are those noise covers that you're putting? What are those noise barriers that you're putting in place? So, but also we send it to different lead agencies, just as we pointed out earlier, to look at the different project and assess it. So, but also for projects that are, which impacts some magnitude, we even get into public disclosure. Public disclosure is in different aspects. Either you go back to the project area, you just do basic review, basic interview with the area LOC. But for mega projects, we do what we call public hearing. We call into different, this is a real process. It's on for all affected. It's out there in community. We put it in newspapers, different radio stations. We call it like a community baraza. You come up and look at this assessment that has been done. You evaluate the different conditions that have been given. So upon all this process, when NEMA is satisfied, it will issue decision. But this decision can be issued in different ways. Either you have been approved, what you did is okay, or there is missing information, please add, or it is deferred, can't change this and there, or it's rejected. So decision making is in that threefold. It's in those different sections. It's not a must that whatever you submit actually gets cleared. So when the authority, when I say authority, we're referring to NEMA, it is satisfied with assessment, the mitigation, everything is clear, input from the stakeholders is okay, the relevant lead agencies are okay with it. We now approve it, and the developer is required to pay the 70% that remained. 30% is non-refundable, 70% is refundable. So you pay the 70%, but by the time you're told to pay the 70%, your certificate is ready. Approval is ready, everything is clear. So you pay the 70%, upon paying the 70%, your certificate is typed, signed, and issued to you, and you're way to go for clearance. For any communication that is done, we have timelines within which we operate. Of course, these timelines are there. We try our best to achieve them, but for delays come in different folds. Sometimes the consultant hired has not done a good job. Sometimes maybe internally, we need to go to the field and verify. Sometimes internally, the operations or the solutions that have been given are not appropriate, and we're trying our best to see. But amidst all that, we should work within appropriate timelines. This is communicated for all projects that have been approved or rejected. They are communicated routinely, or they are often communicated to the developer on the NEMA website. When you log on to their website, there is a section for considered projects. So within that considered projects, it's either approved or rejected. It's communicated back to you. When assessment is done, you get a certificate. As your process moves on to an additional step of environmental auditing and compliance, it's not good enough to say, I got my certificate and I'm where to go, I can implement. You go back and ensure you routinely audit your processes, depending on those approval conditions that we put in the certificate, or best practice or international practice. Auditing is dependent on you as an individual. We do environmental checks routinely. The mandated officer within the facility does it on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly. But for regulatory purposes, huge projects do routine auditing 6 months or even 3 months. For those very highly contaminative or highly explosive facilities, or those facilities with high impacts, they can even do it 3 months. But for our usual normal projects, auditing is annually. So at the end of the day, that is what encompasses their environmental assessment process. But as Tony mentioned earlier, NEMA has gone into automation, the environmental licensing and information management system. And whatever we've talked about now is being submitted online. It is a new system. What does it mean? System development is not a one-time thing. It's not a one-week process. So we are all into learning, both the institution, the developers out there, but also the consultants. We are into learning process. So at the end of the day, let's embrace the system. Let's use it. We shall go through our ping pongs of learning and ensuring it works well. But automation is here. And the beauty of automation, it comes up with efficiency. It comes up with fast-trackedness, effectiveness, but also tracking. You asked a question here and said, how does someone get to know that you have a certificate? With this system comes up, anyone can log on and type it, so long as you know the name of the facility, So that's the beauty of automation. So let's embrace it. What are the different costs that are involved in all this process that we have explained? We have fees for the consultant to conduct the EIA. NEMA officials do not conduct assessment. We review and make decisions for which projects have been submitted to NEMA. So at the end of the day, that consultant or the private consultant that you have hired will take up a fees. NEMA does not have a say or regulation on how much you are charged, but there is standard practice and they have a committee that governs them. They have a full association that governs them. So on top of the fees, you also have the different fees levied by NEMA. The fines, the charges, the penalties, as he elaborated initially. We have different penalties that are levied onto NEMA that we shall maybe expound later, or that's okay. So those are also, that's in section 171. But also we have the EIA fees as per schedule 4. An example, if your cost, for example, does not exceed 50 million. When we say a project cost, we are not looking at the project of land. It's one reason evaluation certificate is required when you're submitting your ESIA, just to ensure that the fees that you're paying to URA are the correct EIA fees that you are equivalent to your project. Valuation expects you to look at the whole sum project cost, the cost of the land, the cost of your operations, the cost of the labor force, the cost of equipment. You encompass all that and come up with a project cost. So if your project cost does not exceed, for example, 50 million, you will pay EIA fees that amount to 0.5%. The numerics keeps increasing. Between 50 and 5 million, for example, you'll pay 0.475% of EIA fees. The amounts keep increasing up to the maximum that we had, and those big projects cost beyond 70 billion. Anyone beyond 70 billion, you pay 0.05% of EIA fees. So it's dependent. It's not a one cut fits all, but it's dependent on your project cost, the magnitude that you have. But we also have environmental compliance audit fees. These are as per schedule 3 of the audit regulations, and these range from 500,000, 1 million. The highest audit fees that we have is 2 million shillings. Maybe also, if you can allow us to go through the different penalties that one carries out, since we've talked about among the things that we look out are the fines, the different penalties one can have for not carrying out, let's say, an ESIA. If one undertakes an activity that requires an ESIA, but without you carrying out. Remember, you asked me who is liable. I gave the different categorization. Yeah. You commit an offense. If, for example, you make a false and misleading statement in the ESIA, we've had situations, assessment has evolved in the country. Just as Tony explained to you, we started from 5 projects in 1995. Right now, we are in thousands of projects in 2024. What does it mean? The process of assessment is different. In the olden age, it was a matter of saying your project is located in Chinawataka village, Nakawa division, Kampala, capital city, Kampala. So you will come to Chinawataka village and everywhere it's there. In the present day, technology has evolved. We go ahead and stipulate the different Google map, the exact coordinate of location. So what does it mean? People know about the directives of the president, where we do not approve projects in wetlands. What will someone do? If my project location is in location A, I will give coordinates for location B. So when you go to implement, and you know very well location A is a wetland, you give coordinates for location B. So when you go back to implement a project, you're actually implementing it in location A. So at the end of the day, that is an example of false information and misleading information. Because NEMA gave you a certificate in the name of location B. At the end of the day, we are up in arms with society. We approved projects in wetlands. But when you get back and input those coordinates, they are actually not those exact locations. So of course, that's where enforcement teams come in and they're up in arms. Like now we have a full legal prosecution committee. We have an investigation team. As you know, NEMA underwent restructuring. So you're candidates of such characters. But also, in case you prepare an environmental and social management plan and use it in place of an environmental and social impact assessment, you commit an offense. In case you fail to comply with conditions, you commit an offense. in case you under-declare your project costs. Just because these are statutory fees, they are within the law, everyone knows what they will pay if their cost is clear. You can tend to under-declare, and the money you're paying to URA is actually little. So at the end of the day, you commit an offense. But also, lastly, in case you forge, alter a certificate, you commit an offense. It's one reason we are getting into automation. We shall be getting online certificates. These have what we call protection features. Each of these certificates will be a digital certificate. It will have its protection features, security features, which can't easily be. Of course, Uganda, you can do, in the world, you can do anything, but they have, at least they have had a security feature, which is tight enough and be able, not easily forgeable. Unlike of recent, where the rate at which people forge certificates, someone just goes to NASA and comes up with a certificate and is confidently flashing it onto you that it's an NEMA certificate, forgetting that we have databases and record that we fall back onto. So as Tony explained, in all this, the penalty is very clear. Just to echo what he said, for an individual, you pay 100,000 currency points. For a corporate body, you pay 500,000 currency points. One currency point is equivalent to 20,000 shillings. A currency point is equivalent to 20,000 shillings. So what does it mean? For someone who is an individual, for 100,000 currency points, that is 2 billion shillings. How many of our businesses have a capital of 2 billion? Why risk getting out of business just because you don't want to comply? Why risk getting 70% of your capital just because you don't want to comply? So if a currency point is 20,000 shillings, if someone's penalty is 500,000 shillings, it means they are liable to pay 10 billion shillings. How many of our projects or how many of our businesses have a capital base of 10 billion? So at the end of the day, it is one thing when we look at the different penalties, it's not worth it. What is that appropriate way that we can look at it and comply? Come out. We've always had situations where we open it up to public. We look at, come to the institution, come and we reason together. What's the best appropriate way? You can get an environmental and social impact assessment without you risking and operating and getting against the law. Thank you so much, Josephine.
Thank you so much. I guess the two authorities agree here, the NEMA and URA. It is easier to comply. It is more affordable to comply, so that we don't have to get into that conversation of penalties. Just start struggling to understand what is a currency point. Then it's easier to comply. So back to Clinton. Again, there are terms like footprint. Carbon footprint. We talked about it. So just before we think of closing this, I wanted to ask about the carbon footprint, what it is exactly. Again, in simple terms, because so far your terms have been scary and bringing back bad memories of chemistry. But also you can talk about maybe the best solutions and strategies for organizations. But I also like to always add, as individuals, what can we do? Because when you talk about the organization, it seems big and far-fetched, or it's, but when you talk about it in individual terms, it makes it feel like even me in my little ways, so I can do something.
Okay, let me simplify the jargons we use in climate change. Carbon footprints, these are greenhouse gases. The activities we do when you're generating greenhouse gases. Okay, when you're producing carbon dioxide, because everyone knows carbon dioxide. Now, the methane, the fluorinated acid, let's just put them aside. But let's be basic carbon dioxide. This carbon footprint, this is when we calculate the value or index that makes it possible to compare a total amount of greenhouse gases. Now, what am I trying to explain here? The carbon footprint. 1 liter of unleaded fuel is equivalent to 2.268 tons of greenhouse gases. Okay, let's just put down the numeric figures I'm giving you, Tony. 1 liter is equivalent to 2.68 tons of carbon footprint. That's 1 liter. How many liters do you consume a day, Josephine and Leila? Let's say 40 liters, right? Yeah. Now, 40 liters times 2.68 tons. How many greenhouse gases or carbon footprint you've generated in a week? And then I tell you, what solution can you do, you as an individual? If you say you want to plant a tree, how many trees are you going to plant to absorb
that carbon?
A carbon. You get it? That's what I'm saying. Let's not think about planting. Think about what?
Growing.
I can tell you, one tree absorbs 22 tons. One tree. And also the species matters.
Yeah.
You come and tell me, Clinton, I'm going to plant a Frizzella. Let me plant maybe the mango seedlings. Okay. Then if you know how many 40 tons have generated in terms of carbon footprint, you will know how many trees you're supposed to plant. That is carbon footprint. And then I would like also to communicate that what are these components of carbon footprint when you enroll for my program, by the way. We also take you through the importance of data captured, especially when you're generating different carbon footprints, innovation, carbon reduction. We ask you a question that what can you do within your reach to at least be impactful to reduce on your individual carbon footprint? What do organizations should do to reduce this carbon footprint? Sustainability activities like the 3 R's: reuse, reduce, and recycle. You know, Nairobi can come out and say, in fact, Nairobi is a competitive advantage to say that all our products are green because they've installed a recycling plant, isn't it? Okay. Even recently, even East African Breweries did something. Yeah, I think they introduced a biodiversity plant in their workplace. And you know what? These guys can wake up tomorrow and say, guys, we're going to start trading carbon credit permits. These are permits. All activities that are being done within ESG, you can compile and actually report to the GRI and start trading carbon permits. Now, what should we do? Sustainability activities like reuse, recycle, and reduce. By the way, we're here. When you look at this bottle, is this a green product? It is, because it has a symbol, of sustainability. These guys can wake up and say, this is a green product. This is a symbol. In fact, it's the 3 R's are here: reuse, recycle, and then reduce. Yeah, Nema, I'm giving you work to do to go and first grab all those products. That's not green. What you guys need to do also to hire an employee or a team dedicated to reducing the company's carbon footprint. It's very possible. We ask you, what can you do within reach? Okay, provides accountability and achieves the target. I can tell you, we have the solutions are just on our fingertips. Let's forget about the complicated terms that we use when you're doing sustainability audit, but we can do something. We can do something. Let's allocate, if you really want to get community acceptability there. Right? That's it, Jonathan.
All right. Thank you. So I think we've got some sassy for when we go for the course. I'm asking our technical team to show that course. Yeah, I'm ahead. I've been taking notes. As you can see, that carbon literacy course, you give certificates, right?
Absolutely, from England.
Yeah. See?
Yeah, from England.
England certificate from the UK. I had Manchester.
So regulators, Nema will be asking for those certificates.
Yeah.
Yeah. The regulators are key.
So let's take note and prepare to attend and learn more. Because if you've already find this session engaging, imagine how much more you can learn and get in these 2 days of training. So as we prepare to close, I want Tony to talk about that event which we are going to, where URA is coming to win. Us, we have a winning spirit. I don't know about other people, but when we hear of awards, there we shall be. We want to take them. So tell them what we are going to be doing as we are going to win.
First of all, good luck. Thank you, Josephine. World Environment Day is celebrated on June 5th of every year. As a matter of background, this started in 1972, way back during the Stockholm conference, during the conference on environment. It is when the day was declared and all member states, well, by the United Nations Environment Programme, all member states are required to commemorate World Environment Day. So since 1973, World Environment Day has been commemorated annually under different themes. Now, this year, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is going to host the global celebrations at the global scale. And the global theme for this year's celebration is land restoration, desertification, and drought resilience. That will be in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But in Uganda, which is one of the member states, we have our national theme, which we have localized to our states, which is land restoration for climate resilience. Now, the national celebrations will be in Sironko district in eastern Uganda on June 5th. Plans are already underway. We have started the preparatory processes. The National Organizing Committee has already been formed and a couple of meetings have been held. I guess it's from those meetings that you got to get aware that there are awards that you are so into. But the awards are not the only activities that we are having on that day. First of all, the theme, the national theme, land restoration for climate resilience, is in line with government's 10-year plan for restoration of the environment, which is from 2021 to about 2030. It is in line with the third National Development Plan and Vision 2040. A number of activities have been planned. One, we are going to have massive tree growing because we are not just planting. We're not just going to plant. We are going to plant and then nurture the tree up to the trees. Up to a level when they'll be able to be self-sustaining. Now, the areas for restoration are not only limited to Sironko. We are doing countrywide. We have already started by revisiting what we did last year. Last year, we were restoring part of Mabira as one of the major activities for World Environment Day 2023. We shall be going there to see how the trees that we planted then, how they are doing right now. Of course, between last year, June 5th, and today, we have had several activities therein, and I can tell you with confidence that the rate at which the area that we restored is doing well. Also on 22nd of May is International Day for Biodiversity. So these 2 days are just 2 weeks apart. There is also the International Day for Biodiversity is going to be celebrated in Kapchorwa under the theme Land Restoration for Biodiversity Resilience. So these are two activities, but they are related. And one of the key activities that we are going to be doing is restoration. In Sironko specifically, we shall restore the river Sironko. And then in Kapchorwa, it will be restoration of river Chebonet. But we are also encouraging people in the different regions through our regional offices and through the environment officers in the different districts to take interest and also undertake tree growing in their respective jurisdictions. Now, tree planting is not the only activity that we are doing in commemoration of both World Environment Day and International Day for Biodiversity. There are a couple of other activities. Some have already started, others are planned, and these will go on before WED, as we call World Environment, as we call it, and then post-WED, that is after World Environment Day celebrations. We shall have one that you're very interested in, the awards, identification of champions, environment champions. I had to bring that early because I mean, you're hosting us here. So the awards, we shall look at different categories of individuals, entities, companies, corporations, etc., that have made significant impact on environment. There will be awards of recognition, and then there will be awards of good performance, if I could call it that. And there will be a criteria to select the respective winners that will be awarded. We shall have several cleanup exercises, cleaning up our communities. We shall have a cleanup in Nakasero, at Nakasero Market, that is within the city here. We shall have cleanups in Sironko and all the major cities around the country. We shall have a national dialogue where issues of environment will be discussed, and the national dialogue will be at the end of towards the end of May, and we encourage all of us to participate. I mean, the who and who's in environment will be present to respond to your questions, to hear out your ideas, to take notes. Basically it will be an interactive national dialogue where all issues, it will be a platform for us to raise all these issues, pick them out, and respond to some of them. We shall also speak ideas from there. We shall be engaging institutions of learning, education institutions. I mean, we need to inculcate the culture of environment in our learners right from the early stages of development. So the engagement is going to be through a number of areas. School debates at primary and secondary level. We are going to have essay competitions. We are going to have poems. We are going to have music, dance, and drama, etc., etc. We are going to bring together all these institutions of learning and encourage them to keep the conversation on environment alive. We are going to produce a lot of IEC materials, information, education, and communication materials in different languages.
Okay.
Now, the information in these IEC materials is going to be in line with the theme. Now, this information will be distributed to the different stakeholders. The IEC materials are going to be tailored to their respective audiences, those at policy level, those at community level, and then those for secondary schools. All this information, we need to get it out there to the public to ensure that the conversation of environment is alive, to ensure that our theme makes sense to the people on ground. A number of media engagements on TV, radio, on social media, newspapers, all of this with the intention to keep the conversation on environment alive. And as I conclude, I would like to mention that on World Environment Day itself, that is June 5th, aside from the formal setup where keynote speeches will be made by the way, we intend the President of the Republic of Uganda could be the Jaja could be the guest of honor that day. At least he has been invited, so we are planning at a planning level. That is what is going on. We expect the President to be the guest of honor that day. But we shall also have exhibitions on that day. Okay, the exhibition will be first of all, it is free for those who express interest to come and exhibit. You'll have there is a free space for the exhibition. You come and exhibit good green practices. Have you done something about briquettes? Are you into carbon trading? Are you into cycling? Are you into environment education and awareness? The space is available for the exhibition. The only thing that you need to do is express interest, inform us that you want to exhibit on that day. The channel for submitting the expressions of interest for that exhibition is electronic via email. You send your EOI, expression of interest, just one page telling us what you want to exhibit. If you have a media, maybe a picture that you can attach, and a brief explanation. Send to NEMA via info, that is info@nema.go.ug via email. And then once the list has been compiled, we shall get back to you on the other dynamics of how you can participate in World Environment Day. So we call upon all interested parties, interested stakeholders that are like thinking to come and join us as we celebrate this day for environment. And as we speak today, there are 150 countries that commemorate World Environment Day, and Uganda is one of them. So let's do what it takes to celebrate World Environment Day. I thank you.
Okay, that's interesting. So I think people have heard when we are winning. I don't want you guys to lose out. Yeah, because when we, sometimes when you win, people say, if we had known, we
would have done something about
it. So I want you guys to come on board so that when we are winning,
you're winning together.
And Jaja will be there to see his Bazukulu winning. So please, let's
we've put up a spirited fight for these awards.
And but more than that, it's the fact that it's not just a day; it's like a season.
Yes,
that's true.
And it's part of it should be part of a culture. So,
exactly.
Personally, as an individual, I'm passionate about green, anything to do with the green or the environment. The school I attended, I was a compound prefect.
Wow,
that's what they used to call it.
Wow.
So I am those people who won't litter, who like I try to do my best. And
when we go back to that school compound, is it green?
It is for sure.
For sure.
It is one of the most green.
Do you have trees to your name?
To my name, yes. I also,
at the school.
At the school.
Not at the school, but for Rotaract I am. I am part of Rotaract or Rotary, so I walk the talk.
I know.
So that aside, we had a question. Someone was asking if there are any tax exemptions for companies with emission reduction projects. Then another person asked, what are emission reduction projects? So let's first start with what are emission reduction projects.
I'll take on the emission reduction.
Okay.
Or
you can start with that.
Okay.
So that the other answer comes in.
Emission reduction projects. I don't know whether you've noticed, for instance, now Climate Hub, when we came in here, we invested in 2 projects that can easily account for permits. Emission reduction projects, one of them is afforestation. Okay, that depends what species that you're planting. Other emission reduction projects, it's like now installing a biodiversity plant somewhere. Guys, I don't know, the guys who are into livestock farming, the droplets from the birds, the chicken, that piles up and then they start generating emissions.
Put it in a digester.
Absolutely. A digester is another thing that can reduce on the emissions. And then another thing is, let's go into solar, mini grids. Okay, banks that have automated generators. Can we install a mini grid onto our beautiful roofings? Free energy. Those are some of the emission reduction projects. Then reuse, recycle, and then reduce. That sustainability has to cut across in all organizations. So forestation, developing biodigesters, and then let's attain or install the mini grids for renewable energy projects. There you're cutting down emissions and reduce also driving. How I wish NEMA and other stakeholders, perhaps the best thing we can do is to get a day in a week where we don't drive. Let's just walk.
We walk and cycle.
Let's walk at our workplaces. Let's cycle.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you walk at your workplace, that's well-being, which is part of the sustainable development goals.
Exercising.
Exercising.
Public services.
You should start rewarding guys and organizations. NEMA, I'm giving you another lead.
I know.
Yeah, rewarding organizations that walk or let's have a day in a week
where we walk.
Absolutely. It's a good thing to do in life.
Yeah. Okay, so that was one part of the question. The other is, are there tax exemptions? So for these companies. Now, this one I will tactfully send to NEMA to say that maybe you should advocate for such things at a policy level, because for URA we implement, but the policy that we implement can be probably pushed for or advocated for by the likes of NEMA.
You remember the example I gave you of no objection projects?
No objection, yeah.
An example of a solar plant that is not in the category of assessment. You know, the real assessment comes with a cost.
Yes.
That means tax fee. For projects that are exempted from assessment, and among them are projects like energy cooking stoves, for example. Those are emission-free projects because you're installing facilities that are leading to low emissions. Those projects qualify for what we call a no objection approval. No objection does not come with any costs attached. A no objection project does not come with any assessment that you need to do. It is just you explaining your project, the main impacts it will have, how you'll mitigate them, and you get a response of a no project, a no objection. If you're having a solar project that is of little wattage, as the law will explain, anything below 2 megawatts, that is a no objection project. And on a daily, we don't know how many no objections we sign. So what does that come? It means you're not paying EIF fees. So it's there. It's already there. It's already catered for. And we already doing it. The only challenge is when the no or the non-emitting projects that you're installing is a mega installation and the impacts coming out of it are actually cumulative or more significant, where we actually have to mind the mitigation aspect that will attract a fund. But for normal, usual projects, they actually qualify for no objections without undergoing full assessment, which attracts a tax or a fee or NEMA fees.
Okay. All right. So maybe the other thing I can talk about is that electric cars don't pay import duty.
I know.
In the meantime, you can walk and cycle and consider buying an electric car. I don't know.
Our Kayola here.
To work. Yeah, so that you don't pay the high levies on the imported cars, which are a danger to the environment. That's it from the taxman, really. The rest, I think, with time, people can push for more of that. Yeah. So the other questions are from a gentleman called Saga Woods, or I don't know if it's a gentleman, someone called Saga Woods who's watching on YouTube, but these are mostly tax questions, and the person thanks us for the information on this, but still went on to talk about taxes. So since it's a URA platform, I'll bring your attention to the feedback loop, which is happening on the different platforms where the questions are asked and be answered. And maybe I'll just quickly say, he's talking about fines that are put on new and operating registered business, maybe without the business owner knowing. Please know that you can check through your account to get through the website, the URA website. You can check on your account and get to know, to view your ledger and see what's happening. And if there's anything that you don't agree with, you are free to object. You can reach out through our different platforms, toll-free lines, WhatsApp number, or approach any URA service station or headquarters, whichever is closer to you, so that you can ask about this thing and also object. You're allowed to object if you don't agree with a thing and present your evidence, and it can be reversed or altered. Then you also talk about it's URA's role to follow up those who have failed to file taxes, stating that you registered a business last year with hopes of it getting truly operation, but it has not yet operated until now. If the business is not operating, you can deactivate, the TIN can be activated. Your tax identification number can be deactivated in the meantime until your business is operational, so that you don't get assessments. Otherwise, the assumption is that you're in operation. So if you're not in operation, we encourage you to deactivate your TIN so that you can avoid these other things, the assessments that come through. It's a self-assessment regime. You're supposed to tell us what's happening. We also rely on you to communicate. It's a two-way street. So please approach us if you'd like to deactivate your TIN so that you don't get any assessments that may be undesirable. And then you also ask about the true meaning of VAT in Uganda. You know it in other countries, but you want to know it in Uganda specifically. The VAT is a global phenomenon. It's the same in all countries. It's a value-added tax. It's 18% or 0% for Uganda's scenario. And then there are some items that are exempt. for more information on this on the different platforms, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, on TikTok, there's so much information where we're elaborating what VAT is, where we're talking about FRIS and all these other things that you may need to know. But in simple terms, value-added tax is a tax where you've added value, which value is signified by the price or the markup that you put on the goods. And it's a multi-stage tax, meaning everyone, the traders or the people in the supply chain who charge it are able to deduct it. Whereas the final consumer is the one who pays it. So when I, as a consumer, buy something from your business, I'm not able to deduct it. That's what I can say in brief, because we were talking about the environment and supporting the environment and the green campaign and not about value-added tax. But that information is available on the very YouTube platform that you have asked from Saga Woods. You can look through and you'll find more information. Even as recently as this week, even on Twitter, or is it X, there was a space where they took time to elaborate. And you can also still ask us questions and they'll be answered just like I have. But this is not the platform at the moment for this. So let's just go back to get some closing remarks from our different panelists today. And I'll start from the extreme end with Tony.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here today. We shall always be ready to come and provide the information when invited. The topic of today mainly was on environment and social impact assessment. My colleague Leila has clearly elaborated on the benefits of undertaking ESIA. So I think we should take that information seriously. To businesses, to developers that want to help us develop our country. Sustainability is the route to take. Sustainable development is where we want to go. We don't want you to develop and then miss out on the benefits or maybe close out or suffer fines and things like that. The environment is where you get all your raw materials. The environment is where you operate. The environment is where you will enjoy the profits that you will make from these businesses. So let us embrace it and let us do the right thing. And finally, World Environment Day, June 5th. It is an open day for us to celebrate what we have achieved in environment. It is also a day for us to reflect on where we have gone right and where we have not, where we may not have done the right things for the environment. And after reflecting on these, we make deliberate decisions to make what has gone wrong, to make that right. So the environment is here for us. We shall leave the environment here, but our those that are coming after us will need to enjoy the benefits. So if those that were here before us did not respect the environment the way they did, we wouldn't be able to enjoy what we're enjoying now. So let us take it upon ourselves to do the right thing. Thank you, and it's been a pleasure being hosted here on URA TV.
Thank you so much. Leila?
Thank you, Josephine, for hosting us. I just want to emphasize that carrying out environmental and social impact assessment is essential for safeguarding environment. It is essential for protecting communities. It is essential for promoting sustainable development. But it's also responsible for decision making, what we would call appropriate decision making. It is helpful to someone in terms of acceptance, but it helps a client to ensure they know what they are dealing with. What is that they should not tamper with? What is that they should preserve? But above all, it gives good reputation and goodwill for your project. It gives you, I always tell people, before you run to any authority to get any approval or papers, you need social acceptance of your project. And that can only be achieved through an assessment. So what is most important or take home for us today? We should know that by integrating environmental and social considerations early in the project cycle, what I mean by early before you start or thinking of project implementations. It comes with a lot of benefits. You can minimize negative impacts. You can maximize positive outcomes. You can increase revenue. So what does it mean to URA when someone has increased revenue? The tax base goes high. The taxman is happy. But at the end of the day, you can create a more sustainable and equitable future for us all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And Clinton?
Thanks very much, Josephine. And my message, it's going out especially for those of you watching this beautiful channel. Let's all of us be kind. You know, kindness multiplies kind. So let's all of us be kind. Perhaps the most important thing we can do to our good planet is to be agents of change. Okay? I would call everyone to embrace those very good, most efficient, clean cooking methods out there that stakeholders are using. And then I would call everyone to watch and pick a polythene, whether it's a plastic. Please pick it because it's within your proximity. Okay? So for me, by and large, let's all be agents of change as far as the climate activities are concerned. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Tony, Leila, and Clinton, and for sharing so much. Like I said earlier, me on this carbon literacy course, I see myself excelling. Like Winnie.
You were winning so. We shall win together.
Yeah, so I see myself excelling. I've learned a lot today. Of course, as part of this carbon literacy, we've talked about greenhouse gases, all of them in their complicated names: methane, ammonia, fluorinated acid, which are nitrous gas, carbon dioxide. I'm doing so well. I also
is not doing better than you.
No. Now I'm okay. I've been taking notes. I have a full paper here of notes. I learned that 1 liter of fuel is equal to 2.268 tons of these gases. That's the contribution to what? The carbon footprint. I have to use all the new words I've learned today.
Now you're going to leave the big cars, then you use the small ones, which consume.
I know now. I'm going to continue. I'm going to grow the one tree. That
so that you can be able to
that count as 22 tons. Yeah. So I'm going to do that math because I do about 50 liters a month.
In a week, a month.
A month.
So 50 liters times 12 months.
Yes. So I'm going to do that math. I need to take these things for I need to sit down in the calculator and then I do the math of 50 liters, then the trees, then I will probably try and double those trees. So
and
that
make sure you grow them.
Yes.
Not to plant.
The other key thing was tree growing. I think we need to change now our jargon or our language. So
in NEMA, actually, we're calling it the survival rate, but I'll also now take the tree growing.
Yes.
Instead of the planting.
Tree growing, we are changing the words now. It's tree growing so that you can know that this thing that I planted, how is it faring now? And actually, like usually the projects that happen in schools with the fruit trees, I don't know if they are part of the species that are good.
The different benefits anyway.
Yeah, because the school, the children are motivated to keep that mango tree or that avocado tree. Yes. So I find that you see how I'm in the ESG.
I can see.
I am in class, guys. I'm winning. Like I told you, I'm here to win, to excel in the course, to win at World Environment Day.
But why they have to? Just call us. We take over the monetary verification reports for you.
Yeah. So anyway, jokes aside, let's be literate. Even if you didn't take the course, we encourage you to take the course, but even if you didn't take time to be literate, and not just literate, but practice these things, even at an individual level, you and me, if you can avoid littering, if you can try to reuse. I've seen people who repurpose these wine bottles, these different things. Try as much as possible to keep that Kavera and carry it the next time you go shopping. So let's try and do something. Just maybe to really now part. I had again in part of a talk in Rotary. They said you're either conserving, or you're mitigating, or you adapt.
That's true.
So it's if you can think about it, it's actually related to the reduce, reuse, recycle. Yeah. So with those, and there are different acronyms, then I'm going to excel. I've been summarizing. Yeah, but jokes aside, thank you so much for sparing the time to be with us. I hope this has been enlightening and that you have picked up something that's going to help you to evaluate your life and see how you can incorporate these different changes in your life so that we can do better for our environment, do better for ourselves, because some of the things even help us cut across. If you're walking and you're cycling, you're helping yourself in terms of health. If you're planting a nice tree and getting some of that fresh fruit, you're helping yourself again in terms of nutrition. So it's actually possible to incorporate all these things in our lives. So thank you so much for joining us on our different platforms. For those who asked questions about tax, and I know it has been a break from fighting about IFRIS, but we can still continue that after here on the different platforms. Keep watching, look out for the other programs that we have, like Ones to Watch, and the different tax education shows that we have during the week in the different languages. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us, and have an awesome weekend. Remember that Hajat advocated for a certain brewer. Good day.
Oh my God.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.